Good morning. This is the overview video for week 4. And week 4, the focus is on the budget and evaluation process. So for week 4, let's go to our introduction so we can look at the learning objectives for the week. And they are to describe the components of a budget, to analyze the cost of service delivery, and to describe the purposes and methods of program evaluation. There are a lot of learning resources for this week and 2 learning activities. So the learning resources for this week are as follows. In the Brody and Nair book, it is chapter 13 on managing agency finances, and then the Kettner et al. Book, it is chapters 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, which deal with both the evaluation process and budgeting. There is an article on the budgeting process by the Greater Washington Society of CPAs. Dr. Kaufman's chapter on measuring the impact of university civic engagement talks both about the effort of the Center for Social Work Education at Widener on this area of civic engagement, speaks to the importance of developing your evaluation plan before you begin the program, and also ensuring that everybody is on the same page for what is civic engagement. Sometimes it's referred to service learning, sometimes referred to volunteerism. So what is the definition of civic engagement? This is a website that gives information on budgeting for nonprofits and also a guideline for program evaluation by McNamara. There are a number of videos this week that I would say you should take definitely utilize. The first is prioritizing community issues based on feasibility and importance. There will be many needs that have been identified by your constituent group, but which one or ones is it most feasible for the agency to try to tackle, and how do you decide on that process? This is on evidence-based practice. You may find with some of your programs there are evidence-based programs out there that you want to utilize for your project proposal. This talks about the advantage and disadvantage of utilizing a program that has already been tested for validity and reliability. So there are lots of advantages. There are sometimes disadvantages in terms of being necessary to strictly follow the program protocols in order to achieve what this program is designed to achieve. Clarifying terms in terms of developing SMART objectives, again, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-phased. Looking at the impact and outcome evaluation. So you want to look at this video on evaluation, and then there are several videos around the budgeting process. So lots of resources for this week to take advantage of as you do the learning activities for this week. As a reminder, a draft of your program proposal part 2 was introduced in week 4, and so now it's going to be due for grading in week 5. So this is week 4. The first part of proposal part 2, which is the budgeting and evaluation process, will be due in week 5 as a formal paper. So remember, it is a formal paper with title page, resources, etc. There are 2 learning activities for this week. The first is a discussion post, so this refers you back to chapter 13 of Brody and Nair. And you're going to be utilizing a budget template and also a template for your evaluation plan. So I'm going to try to minimize this for purposes of this video. The budget construction seems to be one of the most difficult components that students have when they are developing their proposal. So for this first column, this is your project and project only. The second column is how much you are requesting from a funding source. They could be the same amounts. However, I would caution you in reality that most grant funders don't fund 100% of projects, and they are looking for you to have other funding sources for your program. This first column is staff salaries and wages. So if you are going to hire people or there are people in the organization who are going to be doing this project, how much is their salary, base salary? This next line is fringe benefits. And even if you are not offering things like health care, retirement, dental plans, etc., there are always a fringe benefit cost for staff. The agency is required to pay 6% of Social Security, a portion of Medicare, unemployment, and workman's compensation. So that amounts to about 14% of what is in this line item. If you are offering more fringe benefits, then it could be 20%, 30%, depending on the additional options you are providing staff. The only reason you would not have costs here is if you are hiring everybody as a consultant, and then all your costs would be in contract. Even if you have an existing building, you should be charging some percentage of the cost of occupancy and utilities to that project if you're buying equipment, etc., etc. Some grants allow for a indirect cost, so this would be 8% of the subtotal. In kind are things you are getting that are donated to the organization. So for example, if somebody's donating the use of a Xerox machine, what does that equate to in dollars and cents? If you have volunteers, what does that equate to in dollars and cents? Subtract that from your total and then get your total expenses. So again, these could be the same, but often you are not getting 100% of your funding from a grant. Every item that you put above in the line item requires you to explain it in a budget narrative. If you are hiring staff, you have a line item of $40,000. If that is 2 staff at $20,000, please note that. What are your equipment costs? If you have a $10,000 equipment cost, and that is for computers, then outline how many computers and at what cost. If people are going to travel, be very specific about how much is in mileage, how much is in hotel. So this is where you explain all those costs. The more detailed, the better. The bottom part of this template is your program evaluation. So these are your objectives. You've already hopefully written them. So these are your objectives, methods or tools, how you're going to reach them, when you're going to reach them, and who is responsible for getting to that outcome. So that's the bottom part of that template, and that is due on Thursday of week 4 to give your partners time to respond give you time to respond to your partners between Friday and Sunday, and for them to be able to respond to you. The next is a formal paper written assignment. So what you did in week 3 around goals and objectives and needs assessment, now you're submitting in week 4. So the feedback you were given in week 3, you are now submitting it in week 4. And this is due by Sunday of week 4. If you have any question on the readings or the resources or the assignments for this week, please let me know. And I look forward to reading your papers and also reading your discussion posts.